Welcome back for another update of Marcelina, my Reliance 44-foot sailboat. I want to do something a little different with this update. In response to a viewer's comment, I'm going to go over the cost of this project so far and provide an estimate of what the total expenses will be when it's complete. But first, my family is adding future sailors. Mackenzie Solina Nobrega was born just a few weeks ago, and she's our first grandchild. How old do they have to be before you can hoist them up the mast to fix a broken wind vane? I'm not sure. Okay, a short progress report before we do the cost numbers. I cut access holes in the subfloors and then secured the subfloors to the cross members. The main purpose of the subfloors is to provide a lip of about 1 inch around the perimeter so that the floor sections can be secured with a latch or a dog but still be removed for full access to storage and service areas. The carpenter that will be making the new interior cabinetry has begun making templates, and he's also working on the floor, or I should say, sole. Here we laid out the old sole sections to see what we needed to add. Unfortunately, they turned out to be too banged up to reuse, and we'll have to start from scratch. I'm considering several options, but one thing I want to do is keep the pinstripe effect of the originals. While we were making templates for the cabinets, we also made them for the new bulkheads. The new bulkheads are about a foot further aft than the old ones. I'm keeping the rib left behind from the old bulkhead, you can see that here, to augment the stiffness of the new bulkheads. This shouldn't be an issue since the rib will be hidden behind the cabinetry anyway. The reason for relocating the bulkheads is that the space forward of the old bulkhead was a bit too short for someone over 6 feet tall to lie down on the settees. If I wanted to have proper sea berths for crew, I needed to make sure everyone could stretch out and not feel cramped. We made the patterns from 1 inch rigid foam insulation, which is easy to work with. The pattern was made in sections and then laid out on the 3/4 inch marine grade plywood. With some tweaking, I got a good fit with the portside bulkhead. As you can see here, there is about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch gap between the plywood and the hull. This is to allow some flexing of the hull without creating a hard spot, which can generate stress cracks. The gap will be filled with rigid urethane foam and beveled to allow for a smooth transition of the fiberglass cloth that will tab the bulkhead to the hull. I then used the portside bulkhead as a pattern for the starboard bulkhead. What I didn't count on, since the starboard side bulkhead is wider than the one on the port side, is the fact that it didn't fit down the companionway hatch. I ended up having to remove some of the trim around the companionway to get it into the boat. Also, since I've been working alone, I've had to use my rope elevator to get larger items on and off the boat. Okay, finally, as promised, the cost of this project. I'll start with the purchase price of the boat as I found it in Florida, $40,300. It was sailed up the coast to Albany, New York by a friend of the previous owner at a cost of $4,000, and then it was another $3,294 in taxes and fees to register it here in New York State. Also, some of the major categories of expenses are Marina Services, $6,770. This includes unstepping the mast at delivery, hauling out, storage, and a few other miscellaneous items. Sail repair, $1,009. This was mostly to have the Genoa recut to raise the foot, as well as some other minor repairs. I didn't go any further with this work on the sails because I'm seriously considering in-boom furling for the main and mizzen, and that may require new sails altogether. I've also paid $14,900 so far to the carpenter that is doing the interior cabinetry. Now the total estimate for the cabinetry on the inside of the boat is $28,000. Another $4,094 has gone into what I'm calling appliances: stove, refrigerator, sink, electrical panel, and so forth. And the rest of the cost is what I'll call parts, supplies, miscellaneous. This covers everything from epoxy resin to the train tickets and meals for a friend of mine and me to retrieve the boat from Albany last year. So the total expenses, again, so far, have been $87,383. Now, I had expected it to be about $75,000 at this point, so I am over budget, but not by a huge margin. Going forward, I'll still have some major expenses, and depending on some of the decisions made along the way, I expect that I'll have an additional $45,000 to perhaps $55,000 to complete the project. Now, this won't get me everything I'll eventually want on the boat to cross oceans, but it will get us most of the way there and allow me to put the boat in the water and actually do some sailing in between projects. So that will give me a total cost for this major phase of rebuilding of about $132,000 to $142,000. Well, I hope you found this update interesting, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave me a comment and I'll try to respond as quickly as possible. Thanks. See you again soon.